Hey ho, it's time to wash the dishes again. I haven't even filled the dishes yet. Yeah, what I do is I fill a basin. I really ought to get a new one. It's getting kind of grotty. I fill a basin in the sink, and that simulates a double sink as well as using a lot less water, which is always good, even if, you're lucky enough that water is an easy commodity and cheap and plentiful, which I am. Saskatoon's got great water. So, health-wise, I'm still having a lot of problems with irrigation, and I'm getting backed up, and this is an unhappy thing. Activity-wise, I'm going shopping again today because I need more rabbit food, and I'm almost out of eggs. And there's a bunch of stuff I didn't remember to do the other day, like getting a new SodaStream cylinder for our soda fountain. We have a soda fountain, yes, I love it. It's great. Sometimes I use the soda pop mixes, but other times I'll just go with straight soda water and a shot of vodka or a bit of orange juice, or I've actually had some fun experimenting trying to make chocolate sodas and coffee sodas. There's a lot of things you can do with a little bit of creativity. Oh goody, that's the water filled up. I've been thinking about something. A lot of talk in the media these days about transgenderism, and are you trans enough, and who's trans enough, and for instance, if I wanted to make myself look more male, in order that people would see me as the person I really am, I would have to first complain to my doctor about how unhappy I am. Then if he felt that I was unhappy enough that, drugs alone weren't a good enough solution, he might decide to recommend me to a therapist. Then if I was patient enough and enough time went by, probably anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, I might get in to see that therapist. That therapist would then force me to spend a year talking about why I think I'm more male than female and prove that I'm trans enough, and then just to test my mettle, force me to make everybody in my world treat me like a man, even though I don't look like a man, sound like a man, or in any ways trigger masculine vibes for the people around me. So then basically I'd be going around, no, I'm a man. You're supposed to talk to me like a man. You're supposed to treat me like a man. And, I know people better than that. If treating people like a gender was something you could turn on and off, we wouldn't need to transition at all. We would simply, a huge amount of the stuff that causes me grief wouldn't even exist. Like being treated like a woman is the problem. Not so much looking at a woman in the mirror. I've got used to that. I'm 54 years old. I've been looking at this mug for a long time. And, I've come up with various ways of dealing with that, from disassociation to learning not to look in the mirror. When I was young, I disassociated, and I looked at the image in the mirror as a separate, very pretty woman that I really enjoyed looking at. And so it kind of looked like vanity, but it was really the disassociation of being transgender. And then I got older and I got fatter, and the woman in the mirror was no longer attractive to me. And so I'm failing this so hard. So what I learned to do then was to stop looking. If I'm checking my teeth, I'll look at my teeth, but I don't look at the overall package. And I'm sure that my fashion skills have suffered as a result. And finally, to reach a point where I don't frankly care. I don't really have a very good idea of self-image in the eyes of others because I'm autistic, and I don't really understand how their minds work or what they're thinking. If you ask me what people think when they look at me, I would just have to tell you to go and ask them. I cannot guess. I cannot, and it doesn't even occur to me to worry about it. I don't even think about it. So physically, I cannot really justify that I need medical treatment for my dysphoria. Socially, everybody's going to argue with me that times have changed and people have changed, and even while they're trying to force me to prove that I'm trans enough. Are you trans enough? And that brings me to this trans women begging to be taken for female when they shouldn't have to beg for it. They shouldn't have to get in the feminist groups and say, hey, that includes us. And the feminists are like, well, not exactly. It's not like you'll ever give birth. It's not like you've ever had a period. It's not like you had that moment in puberty when you first had your period. It's not like you got told as a little girl all of these, they'll come up with a million stupid reasons why she's not woman enough. And the same thing happens to trans men. They're given if people were that creative with novels and art, this would be a great world. But instead, they'd rather turn their creativity to marginalizing, disrespecting, and dismissing other people. Really, what's trans enough? What does that even mean? We wouldn't have transgenderism. I firmly believe we wouldn't have transgenderism if we did not have a binary split down the human race on one side or the other, which you must fall, and to which you are held responsible, and on which you are judged. I am judged negatively for all of the masculine traits that make me trans enough. All of the things about me that are why I feel masculine are the very things that I have been criticized and rejected and sidelined over and put down for, literally put down. It's like we have to treat you worse than bad because you're not sufficiently humble enough, kind of thing. Because I had qualities that were not feminine enough. And yet, I'm too feminine to be a man. But all of the things you could possibly say about a trans person as an excuse why they're not trans enough can literally be said about somebody who's cisgendered. Oh, you can't be trans because you don't have breasts. So a woman who has had a full mastectomy is no longer a woman? Does that make her a man? No, it doesn't, does it? Oh, it's because she has a vagina. So if you get sexual reassignment surgery and acquire a vagina, we'll accept you as a woman. Wait a minute. I don't have a vagina. I don't have ovaries. I don't have a uterus. I don't have a cervix. I don't have fallopian tubes. Does it mean I'm a man now? No, my voice is too high. Oh, so we want to transition in order to change those gender markers that you like to point to and say, that's why I continue to treat you inappropriately, in a manner not consistent with who you feel you are. This is why I continue to act like you're a bubble-headed blonde when you've got more brains than every other guy on the job. This is why I continue to talk over top of you, because no matter what you wear or how you dress or how you act or how you talk, you'll always be a woman. And if you're not complying with gender standards, we will make life harder for you. And the same thing happens to men. It starts out with calls of that's gay, you're gay, oh, that's so gay, all the way to, oh, you're such a pussy, and after you're done shaming them, and they're still like, no, I am a woman, no, I am gay, no, I am like this, no, I do like men better, and I do like playing with dolls, and I do like pink frilly things, and I should be treated like a girl, and you should be opening the doors for me, and you should be giving me all that goodly girly stuff, and instead they beat her up. Never hit a woman unless she's got a beard, right? And what do you want to bet? If I ever manage to grow a beard, I'll still fall under that never hit a woman clause. My voice should get deeper and my face should grow hairy, as many postmenopausal women do. Back to that. Oh, you can't be a man without a dick. So, you gonna walk up to those men who have had cancer, and like Lance Armstrong, and had parts removed from their genitalia, and tell them they're less of a man? You'll get punched out for that. Oh, I can't be a man because I'm nonviolent. You see that these arguments don't wash. They just don't wash. I don't care what one you come up with. Which part of the body a person's supposed to have to qualify as the gender they tell you they are. You can find somebody who doesn't have it. And in fact, you can go all the way and find women who have had so much cancer surgery that that they've grown beards because the hormones have failed. Their voice has gotten deeper because they got scarring on their vocal cords. They had all of their female bits removed because, all their female sex bits removed because the cancer they had. You could find a woman like that, and she identifies as a woman, and she feels like a woman, and she's a grandmother, and she's a mother, and she spends her time crocheting little angel cherubs to give to children in the cancer society and cancer center or whatever. You can find a woman like that. I guarantee. I don't know her. I'm not going to point her out. I don't know who she is. But you could find her. And if you walked up to her and said, "Oh, are you sure you're still a woman?" you would break her heart. Just the cruelest thing you could say to her. And yet you would walk up to a trans woman and say that. Would you? Would you say it about her behind her back? Yeah. I know some of you would, because I've had those conversations in the past. I know those conversations exist. I know the kind of people who have those conversations, and they don't seem to understand that your opinion isn't that important to anyone. It shouldn't be that important to you, and you don't have the right to have those kind of conversations. You don't have the right to discuss the genitalia of another person with whom you are not sleeping. And if you were discussing the genitalia of a person with whom you're sleeping, that person's the only person with whom you should discuss it. Or perhaps their doctor, if for some reason you're called in to give a second opinion. But you sure as heck shouldn't be talking about it with some friend or coworker or a stranger on the bus, or I have no idea, or a parent or a relative. You really should not be having those conversations at all. Whether or not somebody is, that sly little attempt to clock someone is like, they're trying to fool everybody into thinking that they're this gender when we know they're really that gender. It's like, they're not trying to fool everybody. They're trying to live their lives as their best, most real, honest selves. And you're telling them what that is instead of listening them to hear who they are. You don't go around telling people who they are. You go around finding out who they are. They tell you, not the other way around. Do you want me to tell you who you are? Do you really? No. Because you know that in that process, inevitably, is injected a lot of nasty, a lot of insult. I mean, I could tell you who you are. I could tell you that you're beautiful. I could tell you that you love deeply. I could tell you that you are strong in your dark moments. I could tell you all those things, and that would be okay. And you can tell that to the next trans person you meet. Don't say you're so brave. That's such a cliche, but just tell them they're beautiful. Hey, you seem like a really nice person. I hope I get to know you better. There's nothing sexist in that. No, nothing at all. Yeah, you see someone's outfit, it's like, oh man, that outfit is the bomb. You have such great fashion sense. No problem. Anyone of any gender is going to love to hear that. It doesn't say, man, your ass looks so hot in those jeans. No, you don't want to say that to someone. You don't know if they want you to think about their ass that way. The only time that that's appropriate is when you're lovers. Honestly, we used to think that kind of compliment was a way to get laid, and it's certainly a language and a conversation that horny people have, but that doesn't mean that it's appropriate anywhere, anytime, with anybody. So, if you don't know for sure that it's appropriate, and or it's in a situation where sex has nothing to do with the scene, leave that stuff at home. Flirting in the office? No. Inter-office dating? On your own time, probably you shouldn't. You should probably have jobs at different offices, because nobody wants to see you having your morning moo-ahs over coffee break. Really, it's not that cute. It's cute for a few romantics, but for most of the people, it's just kind of squeamish, icky, kind of like, Mom, that's so... Oh, what was that word we used to use for that sort of thing? Can you believe I can't remember? When kids get squeamish over seeing their parents kiss, you know? It can have that effect. Seeing someone that you don't consider a sexual being in your world having a sexual behavior can be very off-putting. It's like, I don't think I have an appetite for these donuts anymore now that you've stuck your tongue through the hole of one repeatedly while smiling at your girlfriend across the table, who then put her finger through her donut hole, and now I don't want donuts at all. That kind of thing. And it's only sexy when you're in that headspace, and you know, at the office is very often not a place people are in that headspace. And the same goes for discussions of what gender a person is. It appeals only to the other bigots in the room, the people who are planning some kind of cruelty. And if you don't want to be a person who plans the cruelties of others, you shouldn't even participate in the assessment of who's worthy of cruelties. You know, and if you do want to be that kind of person, you really ought to go to jail. We have laws against those things for a good reason. The divisiveness that's happening in society, especially down in the USA, where it's caught in the grip of a divisiveness so deep it blows my mind. So when you meet a transgender person, take a quick assessment of their clothes. If that person is wearing female clothing, use female pronouns, regardless of anything short of them going, "It's okay, honey, you can say he." If the person tells you what pronoun to use it. If you just cannot get your head around how to reference someone without using a gendered pronoun, let me teach you. "Oh, who's that over there?" "Oh, that's Pat." "Oh, Pat. Okay. I don't think I've met Pat. Is that person single?" "Oh, yes, they are." "Oh, they are they?" "Yes." "Oh, I see. So, how long have you known Pat?" "Oh, I've known them for years and years and years, ever since we were kids together." "Oh, really? So, like, did you go into the change room together?" "I'm sorry, what?" "Well, I mean, you know, did you do sports in school together?" "Oh, yes, we did. They were really good at b-ball," and so on and so forth. Just work around it with thee, they, them, and using the person's name, and sooner or later, that person will tell you what pronoun to use. They can correct you. You know, in the event that they're just too darned androgynous, it's entirely possible they want you to use they pronouns. Now, that's a new one. And I think it's a rather optimistic and idealistic request when a person who presents as an excessively nubile young woman wants everybody to regard her as non-gendered. It's like, they may play along with it, but they're not doing it, honey. See, I'm not even doing it. I called her honey. I don't call boys honey. I call girls honey. Actually, sometimes I do call boys honey. Actually, honey is a term that I use for people who are very innocent. They're very sweet, they're very innocent, they're very deluded. Those are honeys. And the thing is, these people that want to be referenced as they pronouns and yet exude a sexuality, I'm going to take you with me while I wipe the stove, exude a sexuality that just, it's like putting on perfume. And they can't even help it. And I mean, I was that nubile for a while. I really was. You could dress me in a paper bag and I would still have had men pestering me for sex. It was out of my hands. I could have, and I've seen people do it. People gain weight specifically to get out of that category so that they can stop being treated as the gender they don't feel they are, and or overly treated that way. I mean, it might be that a person identifies as a woman and is comfortable identifying as a woman and wants to identify as a woman, but at the same time does not want to have to beat them off with a stick, because that gets tiresome in a hurry, and most of them are not worth your time. And beat them off with a stick actually translates to have long, drawn-out, endless arguments where some jerk tries to force you to insult him hard enough to upset him. Because the payoff, if you can't, is that he finally gets to sleep with you, because it's a game he's playing, and the prize is sex with you. And he won't stop until you insult him so hard that you hurt his feelings. And I don't know why they want that kind of punishment. I don't get that, but that's what sexual harassment feels like from this side of the lens, let me tell you. And one may well say, well, is that the reason you want to transition? And I'm like, well, it has quit. So if that was the reason, I wouldn't feel this way about transitioning. But I do, still. In fact, I feel more so than ever before. It's like, before I would have had to kill a beautiful young woman, a creature that people value for her beauty. And now, I'm no longer gendered enough. I'm asexual. I'm not attractive anymore. I mean, not in that sense. Don't give me the whole, oh, you're still attractive. You're still a handsome woman. That's not what I want to hear. I'm really happy not to be attractive anymore. It means that I can transgender. I can transition. It means that I don't have to preserve this public commodity of my looks, as I have been so long taught I must do. That, it's like, oh, I'd like to do that. Point to something that gets a girl dirty, and oh, that'd spoil your looks. Oh, you'd never get that dirt out of your hair or whatever, or I'd like to do this, or like when I dyed my hair pink and my mother said, oh, it's a shame you spoiled such beautiful hair by coloring it like that. And I managed to point out that if I'd spoiled it, she wouldn't know my hair was beautiful in order to make that comment. But the message still sank in, that if I am the holder of this precious resource we call beauty, then I am the caretaker only, not the owner of my looks, and I am not allowed to do with it what I will. I must do that which is approved of by others, and preserve this beauty with which I have been blessed. And that's just as stupid from this point of view as it is from the one that isn't blessed with the beauty. The one that is like, oh well, since you don't have beauty, you get to do all the shit work. That's just, the whole system is just messed up. Well, so, are you trans enough? Why does it matter? Is it because you're afraid that some pretty young thing is going to stop being a pretty young thing? Have you not noticed that some of these trans people are just as attractive after transition? Take another look. Oh, you're afraid to be attracted to someone who's trans because you think that might put you in a category that is covered by an acronym. Lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, two-spirited. It's LGBTQ2 now. That what you're afraid of? Honey, the reality is we're all a little queer, and it's okay to be queer. And queer is this beautiful term that covers the entire freaking spectrum. Everything short of his wife stares at the ceiling and thinks of England while he does his duty by her and then goes off and reads a newspaper with his pipe because they are Christians and they are good citizens and they have no sex life and they don't make love. They just make babies. That is the only thing. People who obey that directive from on high of not having sexuality are the only ones that aren't queer. And frankly, that's queer as fuck. Do you get me? Human race is queer. You need to stop trying to define it and start Just like you're not supposed to define what that other person, who that other person is, you're not supposed to define who we as a race are. You're not even supposed to define yourself. You're supposed to figure it out. It's all a matter of stop, look, listen, learn. Okay, well, this is the end of November. I've got some videos coming out next week. I've learned how to do delayed publishing. And so I was able to do a bunch of them all in a row and then release them as they go. So there's something, a little bit about this and a little bit about that. There's some weaving. There's some tying of knots. And my friend Tom has promised to come and start doing a podcast. So I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell because I don't post every day and you might want to know when I'm posting. And come on back. And yeah, have a good December. Bye.